everyone. Today, we say no to abortion bans. Today, we say no to negligent EC access at Kroger. Today, we tell Kroger to change their policy. Today, we are walking for women's lives.
This week, I received a wake-up call. A wake-up call that told me we have not traveled far enough in our journey to protect the sanctity of women's choice. In the midst of Backup Contraceptive Day, I decided to take part by visiting my local Kaiser pharmacy. Yes, the Kaiser pharmacist gave me my Plan B contraceptive, but not before he berated me and ridiculed me for my choice for my body. What? He first told me not to make a habit of this. He continued by saying, some women come in here time and time again, and then they wonder why they can't get pregnant when they're ready to have children.
Oh my God.
Briefly, I thought, wow, maybe I should just walk away. But then I realized that would be allowing some stranger to make choices for my body.
Okay.
I began to remember all of the heroines of and before our time that made the sacrifices today that allow me to make the choices that affect my body. It would be a direct insult if I had allowed that man to guilt me into not exercising my right. Just like it is an insult for us to not stand up for our rights day in and day out. You see, they broke the ground. They began the fight, which affords us our rights today. But it is up to us to further that fight. It is up to us to fight to the doors of our legislators and those who oppose our fight. So today I stand before you with a challenge. That challenge is for each and every one of you to carry on this fight for our lives. Each day we must do something to stand up for our cause. Each day we must do something to let others know that we are not willing to allow others to dictate how we govern our bodies. Yeah! Today I'm walking not for me and not for the men and women that are here, but for all of the men and women that are not here and have yet to realize that they too should be walking. Thank you.
What do we want?
Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Justice!
When do we want
I
it?
am here founded on the belief that everyone, without exceptions, everyone has the divine right to love. Not just any kind of love, but specifically unconditional love. And believing progressive activism is in fact the action of loving justice unconditionally. While I'm here, I don't want to give anybody the impression that this spiritual walk of activism has no fear, but that when it arises, I would encourage you to ask yourself, where would we be if people like Ella Baker, if Gandhi, if Rustin, if Aung San Suu Kyi, if Mandela, if Nantita, if Feinberg had given up? Where would we be? If I said any name that you didn't recognize, then I would encourage you to go look them up because they're well worth the lesson. But I'm sure these folks had some days when they wanted to give up. But I'm so glad that they didn't. So glad that instead they marched on fed by love when they were starving for justice. Traveling on the path of faith, holding steadfast even when the weeds of adversity clouded their sight. They pushed onward because they had vision. And so I'm asking today, what's your vision? I came here to serve notice that this movement has a vision steeped in divinity, and this divinity calls for safe, affordable, universal health care, calls for comprehensive sex education, and let me make it clear that the only thing America needs to abstain from is hate. And so until they do, our activist divinity calls for emergency contraception, what I prefer to call emergency compassion. I believe y'all know it as EC. And so we're calling for the needs of all people to be seen as holy, not viewing humanity through the looking glass of racism, of ableism, of homophobia, of transphobia, of classism, of xenophobia. But we are marching for the needs of food, water, shelter, and a living wage to be seen as holy. I said it before and I'll say it again, that the needs of all people are holy. And and that it is our divine right to have these needs met and to advocate on their behalf. We are marching today for justice, and it is in this spirit of justice that I would encourage you to tap into the awesome power that is you and the awesome power that is us. Peace and blessings.
Take back our rights. Women unite, 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 take back our rights.
The sun is low, the days are fine. Just another experiment.
But yet again, the Christian fundamentalists say they know better. And we know what the intention of this bill is, just like all the others they brought down here. It's to reduce down to zero women's access to a doctor who will perform a medical procedure that woman chooses and needs. That is the point of that bill. That's the point of that 24-hour delay. They keep hammering and hammering and hammering, and they hope to have, at some point, to be able to take apart entirely Roe versus Wade. But right now, the course they're pursuing is, in Mississippi, you can hardly find a place if you need to have a doctor who can perform an abortion. The access, I believe, is limited to Jackson, Mississippi, in that great big old state. So that is their purpose. I had a very inspiring opportunity to meet with young medical students and doctors who provide clinical services to women, obstetrics and gynecology. And to hear from them firsthand, doctors who are practicing in this field say that they understand in a whole new way, at a whole new level, if this bill passes, the nature of having government intrude between a doctor and a patient. The government stand in the middle, government being in that examining room, government coming in between the two of them. And she said to me, I know what will happen when I thrust forward an offer saying the government says that state of Georgia says that I have to offer to show you this sonogram. She says the window will close, the door will shut. That woman's confidence in that doctor and in the doctor-patient relationship is out the window. And she talked about it in very compelling terms, and that's from somebody that's on the front lines of offering services to women who have so very few places to access these services. We fought against that bill in committee. We'll fight it on the floor. The Atlanta newspaper today, any of y'all still reading newspapers, it's up online, Matthew, as well as in the hard print, has got a compelling article, I believe from last Friday, condemning that legislation and condemning this legislative leadership that continually bows and scrapes to religious fundamentalists and acts like we're all supposed to be a Bible-toting member of the First Baptist Church of USA today. That is not the case. We come from all walks of life, we come from all faiths, and we say we still believe in the separation between church and state, a tenet upon which this nation was founded. We also want to shift the conversation and say, if you're so hot, almighty, determined to lower the rate of abortions in this state, come on and sign a bill that would endorse, a resolution I introduced that would endorse the Congressional Prevention First resolution, which says that we should be educating women about their choices, we should be providing access for them to exercise their choices, and we should, throughout the country, be exercising women about emergency contraception as an option. A handful of women are aware of that option. A handful of women are aware of that option. And this crowd up here wants to hammer on our access to that as well. We're in a battle. You're on the front lines. I want to thank you for being there. And I'm going to quote one more time, Bobby Paul, what I believe to be true, and that is the wisdom of Dr. Martin Luther King when he said, the moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice. We will continue to fight for justice. We will continue to fight for the right to privacy. We will continue to expose the bankrupt schemes of the fundamentalist right wing, and we will continue to stand and speak for women's right to choose. I thank you and I applaud you for your tenacity. Go forward.